Final writer. Cecelia Downs has published stories in literary journals such as Green Mountains Review and Other Voices. She has received several writers' residencies from the Ragdale Foundation and is currently at work on a novel set during the Irish famine. Cecelia?
I'm going to read from the novel, which is called Scattery Island, and it primarily concerns a character named Catherine, who left Ireland 10 years ago with her family, has now returned alone during the Irish famine because 4 of her cousins have been orphaned. They've tried to send money, have not had a response, and she's the lowest wage earner, so she's been sent to get the cousins. Can't find them when she arrives. She encounters 3 children who have just come off of Scattery Island, which is just off the coast of Clare, off Kilrush in Ireland. And the children are highly distressed. They were the last ones on Scattery because it's everybody has died from the famine. And their parents have died. They're very distressed. Kind of death rituals are hugely important to the Irish, and they haven't been done, and they want a Christian burial for their parents. So Catherine has unwisely rowed out to Scattery. So this is from on Scattery. In the distance, the sun had found an opening between clouds, illuminating Scattery Island like God's radiance come to earth. The round tower near the center of the island appeared like an ancient spear stuck into a mound of brilliant, velvety grass. Catherine knew this for the light it was. In truth, Scattery was little more than a heap of bones, Danes killed in long-ago battles and stacked like firewood along the shore, Spaniards washed up from the Armada ships, crashing against Irish rocks, islanders laid to their final rest. A few mainlanders were buried on the island as well, for Scattery was known as a holy place that would speed one's journey to heaven, a thin place where those who'd gone to the other side might enter the ordinary world and ease the loneliness of those left behind. Now they've arrived at the home where the children's parents are inside, and Catherine has gone to see the state of the bodies. Quickly blessing herself, she pushed at the door with her shoulder. It didn't budge. She lifted her foot and kicked it hard. A terrible vapor rushed from the house, not air that would soon blend with other air, more like a presence, a creature with substance. She had no choice but to step away from the door. On Halstead Street, an old woman once let a yard full of slaughtered chickens rot behind her house. They were suffering beef rot and had to be killed, so she chopped off their heads and left them where they fell in the yard. Neighbors complained, saying they were having nightmares brought on by the smell. Their complaints did no good. The rotting flesh remained where it was for an entire week of August heat. Catherine had never forgotten the smell. She waited for the worst of the odor to escape the house, then approached once again. The shutters were closed, so all she could see of the dark interior was the egg-shaped, basined-out place near the door where generations of feet had stepped when they entered the earthen-floored home. She waited for her eyes to adjust, listening to faint scuttling sounds. So she discovers the bodies that are not a good shape. The eyes had been eaten by rats, these rats that are all over. And she convinces the children that they can do a kind of legitimate burial by burning the house, and they do that, and then they go off to St. Shannon's Well to pray for the parents, and that's where this picks up. St. Shannon's Well was a low rectangular pool about 4 feet across and 6 in length, its perimeter framed with round-shouldered rocks carefully chosen. The children dipped their fingers in the water to bless themselves, then lifted a handful to drink. The holy water ran in rivulets down their chins. Hitching her skirt up over her shoulders, Catherine lowered herself to the ground. She crept around the wall on her knees, praying 3 of the Shea Deva, I can't pronounce Irish very well, Vahira Wira, 1 Nather, and stopping for a Glarda and Aher. Then she prayed the whole pattern again. She could hear the childish, hopeful voices of Anna and Jared saying the prayers with her as she inched along on her knees. The path was made of hard-packed clay, but it was blessedly free of rocks, cleared of stones long ago, maybe even centuries ago, by pilgrims circling the well on their knees. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. And around she went. In her time, her knees burned mightily, and she longed to crawl like a baby, taking some of the weight on her hands. But she had to keep herself upright and righteous. The children were watching. On and on she went, her knees punished for her sins, for bringing the children to this blasted island. She had to keep going until blood showed on her knees. The children would expect at least that much, mortification of the flesh. Holy Mary, pray for us. Saint Shannon, pray for these children now in their hour of need. Stopping for a moment, she watched the cloud of smoke gathering in the sky above the children's home. She longed to be done with her prayers and away from this place. The wind picked up. It had come in waves all afternoon, and the air suddenly changed. She rubbed her arms, trying to warm herself. The sky was dark with clouds of an oddly brownish cast. A storm was coming. She shivered from the cold. The sky was an uneasy shade of yellowish brown. The wind rushed, paused for breath, and rushed on again. Still, she kept on with her prayers round and round the well, praying for the parents of Anna, Jared, and Brendan, praying for the dead and for those who remain, praying for Saint Shannon to push the storm beyond Scantary and out to sea. He had delivered the island from Carthay, which is a sea monster, all those years ago. Surely a mere squall could not overwhelm his power. When the blood finally showed on her knees, she stopped to catch her breath, placing a hand on one of the smooth, round rocks that bordered the path. Something about the rock caught her eye, for it differed slightly from the others. She ran her hand over its smooth skin, pleased by its silky surface. Her fingers came to a rough place where the rock seemed to be scratched. She bent to give it a closer look. It looked like numbers or letters were cut into the stone. 9 May. Yes, that's what it said. Her birthday. How odd to come upon a rock with her birthday carved into its face. There seemed to be more numbers. She scrubbed at the rock with her thumb, trying to clean it of dirt. The numbers were hard to see, but they were definitely there. Pushing hard at the rock, she tried to free it from the ground and pick it up. Impossible. Finally, she spit in her hand and rubbed the rock again. 1831. 9 May 1831. The very day she was born. Her heart pounding, she scrambled to her feet and pulled down her skirt. She scanned the sky yet again, watching as the clouds parted around a particular place in the sky, as a rushing stream might part around a rock in its path. She strained to see what was behind the clouds, but her eyes seemed to go dim, and then sharper, and then dim again, until she scarcely knew what she was looking at. Finally, in a narrow space between the clouds, she glimpsed a funnel of wind trailing a rose-colored skirt, its hem lifting as it moved, unrushed toward Scantary. Toggia Anamacha. She had always hoped for a sign from God, waiting and nothing ever revealed. And now a sign had come. Her eyes fell shut. Later she would wonder why her eyes had closed at the very moment when she might have seen something she had always longed to see. And yet she couldn't look. All around her she could hear the wind humming as it lifted her hair and pulled at her shawl. Something was passing. Sigaloth, a fairy wind, one of the saints or one of the dead. When she finally found the courage to open her eyes, she saw that swifter clouds, racing onward toward the far side of Ireland, had slipped beneath the funnel of wind. Whatever she had seen earlier was gone. Standing, she leaned over the well, hands propped on her thighs. Every part of her body, back and arms and neck, ached with impossible weariness. How would she ever manage to row the children back to Kilrush? She closed her eyes again, breathing the air that came off the holy well. The water was nearly odorless, as though Scattery Island were a piece of ground unanchored to the rest of the mortal world, a place made up of bones and spirit and little else. A burst of air came up from the well, sprinkling her face with holy water. She touched her skin, feeling the moisture. What kind of place had she come to where water might lift itself from a well to shower her face with holiness? What kind of place had she come to where a stone would be cut with the date of her birth?